The sun over Garakainen was cruel. It burned like fire, hanging high above the endless desert. The wind didn't blow. The sand didn't move. Nothing lived out here. Buried to her neck in the hot sand, Darika couldn't scream anymore. Her throat was too dry. Her lips were cracked. Her voice had become just a whisper. She had lost count of the hours, maybe even days. The heat wrapped around her like a prison. She couldn't move her arms. Her legs were trapped deep beneath the sand. Only her silver-white hair fluttered slightly in the still air. Her violet eyes blinked slowly, filled with pain, fear, and exhaustion. No one would come here, she thought. No one cared. She was going to die. Darika closed her eyes. Her body had stopped fighting. The desert was winning, but then she heard it crunch. She opened her eyes. The sound was faint, but real footsteps on the sand. Crunch, crunch. Her heart started to beat faster. Maybe it was the wind playing a trick. Maybe it was another desert beast, ready to feast on the helpless. Crunch. No, those were boots. Someone was walking. A shadow appeared in the distance, tall and human-shaped. It moved slowly, carefully, like it didn't trust what it saw. Forced her voice to work. Help, please. The figure stopped, looked around, then walked faster. Closer. Now she could see a human man. He wore a scarf over his face, old goggles over his eyes, and carried a long staff with tools hanging from his belt. He looked like a scavenger, someone who lived off forgotten tech in the wasteland. He crouched down in front of her. What are you doing out here? His voice was low and rough. She blinked at him. They left me to die. He frowned, then began digging quickly with his hands. The sand was hard, packed by heat and time, but he didn't stop. Sweat poured down his face. His gloves tore. His fingers bled. Still, he dug. After minutes of effort, he freed her shoulders, then her arms. She collapsed forward into his arms, weak and shaking. He held her gently. Who did this to you? Thorika's lips trembled. I can't go back. They'll kill me. Who were the black masks? The human's face went still. He had heard of them. Everyone had. Bounty hunters. Enforcers of alien law. They didn't care about right or wrong, only control. Why are they after you? He asked. She looked up at him. Her voice was barely a whisper. Because I ran away, and because of what I carry. That made him pause. What do you mean? But before she could answer, she passed out in his arms. He looked around. The desert was quiet again. Still, something didn't feel right. He stood, lifting her carefully. She was light, too light, like she hadn't eaten in days. Her skin was pale and hot. He walked toward his small sandcrawler hidden behind a dune. It wasn't much, but it had water, shade, and medical supplies. He laid her down inside, covered her with a cloth, and gave her a few drops of water as he worked. He kept looking out across the sand. He had found someone strange, someone dangerous, maybe even wanted by half the galaxy. But he had also heard her whisper, seen her pain. And now, whether he liked it or not, he was part of her story. The first thing Tharika felt was warmth, not the cruel heat of the desert, but soft warmth, like a blanket pulled over her frozen soul. She didn't remember being moved. She didn't remember being touched, but her body was no longer buried. She was lying on something soft, and her lips were wet from water. She opened her eyes slowly. The ceiling above her was made of rusted metal. Old wires hung from it. A weak fan spun lazily in the corner. Faint engine vibrations hummed beneath her. It was a ship or a crawl or something that moved. She tried to sit up, but her muscles screamed in pain. A hand caught her shoulder. Easy, said a voice. You're safe. For now. She turned her head and saw the human. He had taken off his face scarf. He looked younger than she expected, maybe in his late 20s. Sun-touched skin, short dark hair, and tired eyes. His shirt was torn, and his hands were bandaged. Dirt covered his clothes, but there was kindness in the way he looked at her. What is this place? She asked. My crawler. I built it myself. Name's Jace. He offered her a small bottle. Drink slowly. She sipped. It was the cleanest water she'd ever tasted. You should have been dead out there, Jace said. But you weren't. Why? Tharika looked away. You shouldn't have helped me. Too late for that. Her hands tightened around the bottle. They'll track me, anyone who touches me. Jace frowned. Who's they? The black masks, she whispered. They have hounds that smell through space. They hunt the dishonored. They leave no witnesses. And what did you do to deserve that? Tharika hesitated. Then, very softly, she said, I was born. He stared at her, waiting. But she didn't speak more. Jace stood and walked to the front controls. Through the dusty window, the desert stretched endlessly in every direction. I can drop you off at the next outpost, he said without turning. No, Tharika said quickly, sitting up straighter despite the pain. They'll expect that. Then where do you want to go? She looked at him with wide eyes. Somewhere they won't look. Somewhere dead, Jace scoffed. That would be here then. You already found it. No, she said. I mean deeper past the iron cliffs, into the dead zone. He turned and stared at her like she was mad. No one goes there. It's cursed. Even machines shut down near it. I know, she said. That's why it's safe. Before Jace could answer, a loud beep echoed through the crawler. He rushed to the screen. A small red dot was blinking on the radar. Something had landed nearby. Tharika's face turned pale. They've found me. Jace looked at her. How? I've got no beacons, no signals. Her voice shook. It's not about tech. It's about me. What does that mean? She slowly pulled down the collar of her robe. On her neck was a faint glowing mark, almost invisible in daylight. It looked like a tattoo, but it pulsed with light. I was marked before birth, she said. My bloodline is cursed by law. Why? Because we carry something the council fears. What do you carry? Jace asked. She looked at him not with fear, but sorrow. Memory. Ancient memory. My ancestors were bonded to something buried beneath this world. The council wants it forgotten. If I survive, the truth might live. Another beep came. The red dot was moving. Do they know where we are? Jace asked. Tharaka nodded slowly. Yes, but they'll wait until dark. They always do. Jace stepped away from the screen. Then we leave now. I can't walk far, she said. Not yet. Then I carry you, he said without pause. She blinked. You'd risk everything for me. Jace looked at her, his voice steady. I buried my sister in a place like this. I didn't save her. I'm not letting that happen again. Tharaka's lip trembled, but she didn't cry. Jace grabbed a weapon from the wall, threw a cloak over her shoulders, and carried her out into the blinding light. The desert welcomed them like a furnace, but far across the dunes. Under the shadow of a low hill, 3 figures in black armor stood watching. One of them lowered a long-range scanner and nodded. They had seen the human. They had seen the girl. The hunt had begun. The crawler's wheels screamed as Jace pushed the engine to its limits. Thick sand sprayed behind them. Every bump felt like a punch to the spine, but Jace didn't slow down. The sky above had begun to darken. Twin alien moons were rising, one red like blood, the other pale green like Tharika's eyes. She sat in the co-pilot seat, wrapped in a cloak too large for her thin frame. Her hands trembled slightly, not from the cold but from something older, something deeper. Are they still following? Jace asked. She didn't answer with words. She closed her eyes and pressed her palm to the dashboard. The veins on her arm lit up faintly, glowing violet. Her breath slowed. Yes, she whispered, they are not far behind. Jace gripped the wheel tighter. How do you know that? I feel them, she said. They're tuned to me, like wolves to blood. Jace looked at her out of the corner of his eye. You're full of surprises. No, she said. I'm full of danger. Behind them, far across the dunes, the black masks gave chase. Their sleek hoverbikes glided over the sand like ghosts. Black cloaks fluttered behind them. Their helmets had no eyes, just metal masks shaped like skulls. One of them raised a long-barreled weapon and fired. The crawler shook violently. A bolt of plasma struck near the rear wheel, sending sparks into the night. They're shooting, Jace shouted. They don't want to kill me, Tharaka said. Just stop you. He swerved the crawler hard to the right, barely missing. A jagged dune rock. They shoot like they want me dead. You're a witness now, she said. That's worse than a criminal to them. The sand grew thinner ahead. Sharp black cliffs rose from the desert floor. The iron cliffs tore, broken, jagged like a mouthful of teeth. Tharaka opened her eyes wide. Go left. There's a hidden path through the rocks. Jace didn't ask how she knew. He turned left and drove straight into the shadows of the cliffs. The sound of the crawler changed, echoing off the walls. Louder, tighter. Behind them, the pursuers slowed. One black mask dismounted, kneeling at the spot where the crawler tracks disappeared into the cliffs. He touched the sand. Then he stood and raised his hand, signaling to the others they would continue, but carefully. The cliffs were dangerous, not just for the rocks but for what lived under them. Inside the cliffs, the crawler entered a narrow canyon. Alien vines hung from the stones, glowing faint blue. Jace turned off the headlights and drove, using only the faint moonlight and the glow of the plants. Tharaka leaned forward. Her voice was soft, serious. Jace, if they catch us, don't let them take me alive. Jace didn't look at her. That's not happening. I'm serious, she said. They will rip my mind apart. They don't care about my body, only what's inside. Jace said nothing. A minute passed, then he replied, if I wanted to turn you in, I would have left you buried in that sand. Tharaka gave a faint smile. Then I was lucky you found me. No, he said. Maybe I was unlucky. You've made my life a lot more complicated. Suddenly, the crawler stopped. Ahead of them, the path ended in a rock slide. Giant stones blocked the canyon. Chassis slammed the steering wheel. Great dead end. Tharaka opened the door and stepped out slowly. Her feet touched the stone ground. She walked up to the rocks, her eyes glowing softly. She raised her hand and sang. It wasn't a song in any language Jace knew. It was ancient, deep. It made the air vibrate. The rocks shimmered with light and then they moved. The stones rolled aside, not crashing down, but sliding perfectly like a gate that had waited thousands of years to open. Behind them was a tunnel, dark, wide, and cold. Jace stared. What is this place? Tharaka turned. The ruins of my ancestors. The black masks won't follow us here. Why? She walked into the tunnel because they fear what sleeps below. He followed. Behind them, the rocks slid back into place. A canyon fell silent once more. But high above, on a cliff's edge, a lone black mask watched them disappear. He pressed a button on his gauntlet. The message was simple. They've entered the ancient path. And somewhere far off a voice replied. Then send the hounds. Jace had seen a lot of strange things in the galaxy, metal trees that cried when cut, planets that rained fire instead of water, but nothing compared to this tunnel. It wasn't built, it was grown. The walls pulsed softly, like the inside of a living thing. Glowing veins ran along the stone, pulsing in slow rhythm with Therica's steps. Every time she took a breath, the walls seemed to echo it. He whispered, "What is this place?" She stopped and looked at him. "This is where my kind were, born and cursed." As they walked deeper, the air grew colder. Their footsteps echoed behind them. The light from Jace's wrist lamp flickered, like even his tech didn't trust this place. "Why are we here?" he asked. "To hide," she said. "To remember." He paused. "To remember what?" She didn't answer right away. Then she raised her hand and pressed her palm against the wall. A flash of violet light surged from her skin. The wall rippled, and symbols began to appear, glowing marks, old and beautiful. Jace stepped closer. "You activated it." "I didn't," she said. "It remembered me." The symbols shifted, and then the floor shook. A hidden door opened, revealing a small room filled with floating crystals. Inside, strange machines sat silent, covered in dust and webbed roots. Therica walked inside without fear. Jace followed, carefully. "This was a lab," she said, "for shaping what we are." He looked around. "A science lab?" "No," she replied. "A womb." Jace noticed a broken metal table with straps. He looked at her. "They created you here." She nodded. "Not just me, my bloodline." She lifted her sleeve and showed him the glowing mark on her arm again. "This is not just a brand," she said. "It's a key. My blood opens what's locked. It's also why they want to destroy me." Jace stared at her in silence. She turned and walked to a pool of dark water in the center of the room. The surface was perfectly still. She knelt beside it and dipped her fingers in. The water reacted instantly. It turned bright violet and began to boil. Jace took a step back. "That's not normal." She pulled her hand out. "It's not the water, it's me. What are you?" She stood up slowly. "My people were guardians of ancient memory. But the ruling houses feared that memory. They erased it, and made anyone who carried it forbidden." "You're a living database," Jace said quietly. She looked at him, and for the first time, he saw sadness in her eyes that felt older than time. "Yes, but I'm also a ticking bomb. If I die, everything locked inside me is lost. If I live, the Council's lies will crumble." He rubbed his face. "You said the Council fears the truth. What is that truth?" She looked toward a sealed door at the back of the chamber. "That the galaxy belonged to something else before them. That we were never meant to rule it. That power was stolen." As she spoke, the glowing veins on the walls brightened. The air changed. Jace felt a strange pressure in his chest, like something was watching them from beyond the stone. Then Therica fell. He rushed to her, catching her before she hit the ground. Her eyes rolled back. Her body trembled. Glowing cracks appeared along her neck and arms, faint but spreading. "What's happening to you?" he shouted. She gripped his shirt with weak fingers. "The memory is waking up too fast." He lifted her, carrying her to the old table, and laid her down gently. "What do I do?" "Blood," she whispered. "I need to connect with my source again. There's a chamber below. It feeds the old ones." Where she pointed to the sealed door. Jace turned to it. No handles, no switches. He grabbed a knife and looked at his own hand. If it needed blood, maybe any blood would do. He sliced his palm and placed it against the door. Nothing happened. Therica's voice cracked behind him. "Not yours, mine." He rushed back, helped her sit up, and pressed her glowing hand to the stone. The door opened with a loud hum. Inside was a spiral path leading downward, into blackness. He picked her up again and walked into the dark. Behind them, the crystals began to pulse. One by one, old machines blinked to life. Far above, on the surface of the desert, the black masks had arrived at the iron cliffs. Their scanners failed. Their signals died. Still, they moved forward, bringing with them a new hunter, a beast of black steel and bone. It didn't need light, it didn't need rest, and it had her scent. The deeper Jace went into the spiral, the colder it became. The tunnel seemed endless, winding like the inside of a sleeping creature. He held Therica tightly in his arms. Her skin glowed dim violet under the flickering wall lights, her breathing soft and broken. "Just a little more," he whispered, though he wasn't sure where they were going or if they'd survive what waited at the bottom at last. The spiral ended. They stepped into a massive underground dome. The ceiling curved high above them, covered in shimmering blue crystals. The floor was smooth and round, with strange patterns carved into the stone, circles within circles, like a map or a clock. In the center was a pool of black liquid, still and deep, as if it had been waiting. "This is the source," Therica whispered faintly. Jace lowered her beside the edge. "What do I do?" "Place me in it," she said. He hesitated. "Are you sure it won't hurt you?" Her lips curved into a weak smile. "It's part of me. It knows me." Jace gently lifted her and lowered her into the black pool. The moment her body touched the surface, the liquid lit up. Bright purple veins raced outward like lightning. Her eyes snapped open, her body arched. And then silence. Jace stepped back. Therica floated in the center of the pool, her body surrounded by a soft glow. The wounds on her skin began to heal. The cracks faded. Her breathing steadied. He watched, unsure if he should feel relief or fear. Then the voice came not from her mouth, but from the chamber itself. "You have chosen her." Jace turned sharply. "Who said that?" The crystals on the ceiling pulsed. The patterns on the floor shifted. "You brought her back. That makes you part of the cycle now." Jace stepped toward the pool. "Who are you?" "We are what came before. Memory, sealed in blood. She is the last gate." Jace's heart pounded. "What do you want from her? To be free or to be forgotten? That is her choice. Yours is to stand beside her, to run." He stared at Tharika floating in the pool. Her face looked peaceful now. For once, she didn't look hunted. She looked like she belonged. He closed his eyes. "I won't leave her," he said quietly. The voice responded with something that almost sounded like approval. "Then you will suffer with her, bleed with her, burn with her, but you will not be alone." Jace looked up. "I already made my choice." The lights faded. The pool slowly returned to darkness. Tharika rose from the water on her own, standing on her feet. Her skin glowed, brighter now, her eyes clearer, sharper. She looked like someone reborn. She stepped toward him, dripping black liquid that evaporated before it touched the ground. "You stayed," she said softly. "I said I would. Most wouldn't." "Not most," he said, almost smiling. She reached out and touched his hand. "You don't know what this means. They won't stop hunting us now. You've tied yourself to me." Jace nodded. "Then I better keep up." Suddenly, the ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. The patterns on the floor froze. Tharika's face turned serious. "They're here, already. They sent something worse than the hunters," she said. "They sent a tracker born of bone and steel." Jace grabbed his weapon. "Where is it?" She pointed up. "It'll come through the walls. We need to move." "No," she said. "We need to end it." He stared at her. "What are you thinking?" "If I face the creature where the memory is strongest," she said, "I can awaken what sleeps here. The truth, the real power. That sounds like suicide." "Maybe," she said, "but if I don't, this chase never ends." Jace looked at her. She was different now. Not just a runaway girl, not just a prisoner. She was something ancient, something glowing, something meant for more. "I'll stand with you," he said. She looked at him, her voice trembling now, with fear, but something deeper. "No one's ever said that to me." They walked together to the center of the room. Tharika knelt and placed her hands on the carved floor above. High in the cliffs, the black masks released the tracker. It dropped into the tunnels like a shadow. Its claws scraped the walls, its eyes burned red, and it had her scent. The chamber was silent. Only the faint sound of Tharika's breathing echoed against the crystal walls. Jace stood beside her, gripping his weapon tight, listening for the sound he feared most. It came scrape. A long, sharp claw dragged across stone, slowly, like a creature savoring the hunt. Tharika didn't flinch. Her palms remained pressed against the glowing floor. The ancient symbols beneath her feet had started to pulse, responding to her touch, spinning slowly like stars turning in a forgotten sky. Jace whispered, "It's here." Tharika nodded. "Yes, and so is the storm." He looked up. "Storm, not outside," she said, eyes glowing. "Inside me." The wall to their left exploded inward. Dust filled the room. Stone shattered. A shadow moved through its long limbs, stretched metal and bone-white armor. Red lights blinked like eyes on its featureless skull. The tracker stepped forward on 4 legs, low and silent. Like a predator with infinite patience, it stopped, sniffing the air. No nose, only sensors that read the world through heat and sound. Jace raised his blaster and fired once. The plasma bolt struck the beast's chest and bounced off like water on stone. No effect. Jace said, stepping in front of Tharika. The tracker lowered its head and began to charge. But Tharika stood. She didn't scream, she didn't run. She raised both hands, and the chamber responded. Lightning burst from the ceiling. Lightning, born from energy trapped in the crystal dome. It struck the floor, forming a circle around her and Jace. The tracker stopped at the edge of the crackling light. The patterns on the ground began to rise into the air, symbols floating, like glowing feathers. Tharika's hair lifted, weightless, her skin now fully shining with radiant violet light. Jace turned toward her, stunned. "What's happening to you?" Her voice echoed not just through her mouth but through the walls. "I've remembered who I am." The tracker held. It leapt straight through the lightning, but the moment it crossed the circle, time twisted. Jace saw the beast freeze midair, hanging like a statue, then shatter into hundreds of pieces, vanishing like dust into the light. Jace fell to one knee, breathing hard. "You killed it." "No," Tharika said, lowering her hands. "I returned it." "Returned it where?" "To the memory," she said. "Everything born of the old laws must return to the truth once it's broken." Jace didn't understand, but he didn't care. She was alive. They were safe, for now. But Tharika collapsed again. He caught her in his arms. "What now? What do you need?" She blinked, her light fading. "There's one final place, deep in this world, the heart chamber." "Where is it?" She placed a glowing hand on his chest. "I can show you." In that moment, Jace felt something strange. Her memory entered his mind. He saw visions, flashes of another world, a city in the clouds, burning, a child with glowing skin held down while machines carved symbols into her back. a council of ancient aliens erasing entire libraries, and then a gate, a sealed door of light, hidden beneath Gar, aka -9.jace, gasped and pulled back. That's where they locked it all, she whispered. The first memory. The true law. You want to unlock it. I have to. If I don't, I'll always be hunted. If I do, I can set others free. He looked at her. Then I'll take you there, Therica smiled. You don't know what waits inside. I know enough, he said. I know you're worth fighting for. She rested her head against his shoulder. You keep saying things like that, she whispered, and I'll start believing I was never meant to die in that desert. You weren't, he said suddenly. The crystal walls shifted again, not with danger but with light. A bridge opened on the far side of the chamber, leading into a tunnel deeper and darker than any before. Jace stood, lifting her again. We've come this far, he said. Let's finish this. Above, the storm outside Garakaini had begun. Real lightning split the skies. The black masks at the cliffs looked up in fear. The wind had changed, and deep below, two figures walked into a place no living soul had seen in centuries. The truth was close now, and not even the council could stop it. The tunnel to the heart chamber was unlike anything Jace had ever seen. It wasn't carved by tools or shaped by hands. It felt like it had grown like a living root that reached down into the planet's soul. As he carried Therica in his arms, glowing lights followed their steps. The very air shimmered around them. With each step, her skin grew dimmer. Almost there, she whispered, her voice weak again. Jace held her tighter. You're fading. I used too much power. I can't hold it anymore. No, he said. We didn't come all this way to stop now. Ahead, a doorway appeared, not made of stone or metal, but light. Pure golden light that pulsed slowly, like a giant heartbeat. It hummed a soft tone, like a lullaby from the stars. Therica stirred. That's it, the heart chamber. Jace stepped through the light. On the other side was a round room, vast and silent. The walls curved forever, and in the center stood a pillar floating, spinning slowly. It wasn't a machine, not really. It was memory made solid. On the pillar, ancient markings glowed, languages older than history. Cha, ri single quotes kha reached out her hand. I was born to open this, she said. Jace lowered her gently to the floor. She placed a palm on the pillar. Nothing happened. Her glow flickered. She pressed harder still. No response. I'm too weak, she whispered. The key won't turn. I failed. Jace knelt beside her. No, you didn't come this far to fail. She looked at him with tired eyes. Why are you still here, human? He leaned in closer. Because I remembered the moment I found you, your head barely above the sand. You were silent, but your eyes screamed louder than any voice I've ever heard. I heard you then, and I still hear you now. She reached for his hand, and he gave it without hesitation. Their fingers touched. Suddenly, the pillar began to glow, not violet but white, pure, human light. Therica gasped. It's responding to you. Jace blinked. Me. It's reading both of us. My blood, your choice. The room shifted. The wall behind them faded, revealing visions, holograms, memories, echoes of the past, alien kings bowing before ancient stars, worlds ruled by silence and fear, children with glowing marks, taken from their families, but then something new, a human, a man standing beside an alien girl, holding her hand, in front of the council, not as a slave, not as a criminal. As an equal, as hope. Therica's voice broke. It's us. The pillar spoke for the first time. The lock required blood. The door requires belief. Jace stepped forward. Then I believe in her. Then she is free, said the pillar. And the memory will return. A wave of light burst outward. The symbols on the walls lit up, one by one, spreading in all directions, through stone, through the ground, through the world. Far above, at the edge of the iron cliffs, the black masks stumbled. Their helmets sparked. Their ships failed. Their weapons melted in their hands. The council, watching from space, lost all connection. Therica stood no longer glowing, but alive, steady. She stepped into the center of the room and looked around. It's done. The lie's broken. Jace looked at her. What happens now? She smiled. Now others will wake up. Others like me. They'll know the truth. They'll stop hiding. And you. She walked toward him, her eyes softer than ever. I don't want to be a symbol. I just want to live. He nodded slowly. Then let's live. They stepped back through the golden door. The tunnel behind them began to close, sealing itself, as if it knew its purpose had been fulfilled. When they emerged onto the desert surface, the sky had changed. The two moons were high. The storm had passed. And for the first time in her life, Therica felt no eyes watching her. She looked back, at the cliffs where she had nearly died, where she had nearly been forgotten. Then she looked at Jace. You saved me. She saved me. He shook his head. No, I just listened when no one else did. She smiled. That's what saving feels like. Together they walked toward the horizon, not as fugitive and rescuer, but as something stronger, as memory and belief, as alien and human together.